we had the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles, George McCaskey, and Kevin Warren over the last 4 days here in Palm Beach. What did I learn? I learned that everyone in this franchise loves Ben Johnson. You know, sometimes you wonder if it's buyer's remorse. Did we bring in the right guy? He's been around for 2.5 months now. He's been part of meetings. Was he different in the interview setting than he was now that we're working alongside him? These guys love this guy. I mean, the energy, the enthusiasm, the intensity that he has brought to Haugh, which these players are going to feel starting on Monday when they start their camp, is exactly what Kevin Warren and Ryan Poles, and to an extent George McCaskey, were looking for. Are they then going to put someone like Caleb Williams in a bit of an uncomfortable position, and that means under center more than out of the shotgun? You betcha. Obviously, the news today was about the stadium, and instead of it being 100% focused on let's take advantage of the most incredible, beautiful lakefront in the world that Kevin Warren has referenced in the past, now it's, hey, you know what? We got those tax benefits. Arlington Heights, isn't all that bad. So I wasn't surprised with that. And it was just great to get together with George because George usually get to talk to him once a year, and it's typically at the NFL owners meetings. So I love talking to George because whether you like him or not, and I think he's a terrific man. I go way back with George when George was the ticket manager for the Bears. He shoots you straight. There's no gray area with George. You may not like what he has to say, but he's very honest with the media, and I respect that.
We know that you were one of the people who in the past has talked about wanting to keep the Bears in the city as far as playing, but you mentioned it. I mean, I've all along said it's going to be Arlington Heights. I don't understand financially why it wouldn't be. Do you feel like that shift, you said you weren't surprised by it, the timing surprised at all? And do you still maintain that the Bears should try to stay in the city of Chicago?
Let me be on record as saying I'm crushed that they won't continue to play on the lakefront. And I know no decision's been made. I have changed my tune. I thought for sure they'd be able to work out something with the city, with Springfield, with Friends of the Park, and keep it on the lakefront. Then I thought, maybe there's an opportunity to work out something with the Michael Reese space. Now, I think it's Arlington Heights, without question. So, I understand the benefits. Listen, they spent $197 million. They've got 326 acres in Arlington Heights, and they can build Bearstown. I get all the benefits. I really do, Marshall. Stadium, I flat out asked Kevin Warren, because since I've talked to Kevin last, I found out, did some digging, and realized that most of your NFL teams that pay for their own stadium, that get no help from the government, decide not to put the roof on, right? San Francisco 49ers, I mean, I could go down the list, because they decide that if it's $1 billion of our money, not to mention what it's going to cost you to maintain that roof throughout the year, that they decide it's not worth it. So I looked Kevin in the eye today, and I said, are you still committed to a fixed roof on the new stadium, whether it's in Arlington Heights or it's on the lakefront? And he said, absolutely, because of all the other benefits, bringing potentially a Final Four, Big Ten championship, Coldplay rock concert, WrestleMania, you name it. They find that the value, that the return on investment is there to keep the rooftop as part of the stadium. But to answer your question, Marshall, yeah, I think it's me personally. Again, every time I tried to say, well, the focus is now shifted to Arlington Heights, they said, no, it hasn't. The focus was on Museum Park. Now it's on both. So I know that they're looking at both still, but Lou Canellis feels that it's probably going to end up in Arlington Heights.
No, I'm with you, Lou. I think Marshall and I both feel that way. It's where they have the land. It's what they've purchased. But I knew you were an advocate and a big understander when it came to the importance of also having something in the city on the lakefront. So we wanted to give you that space. Also, going back to George McCaskey, I think about how happy he was after the Ben Johnson press conference and how he really got to kind of be himself, which is a fan. We know that about George. And that's him being his most comfortable self, I feel like. He got to have some fun, make some jokes, which everybody should be able to do in a good time. And he got to really just enjoy the moments. They spent the money on the guy. They got to have the person they wanted coaching their team, and he got to enjoy it. And it was stark to hear him understandably speak today when it came to discussing what's next for his family, what's next for him as chairman, and how the Bears move forward now that Virginia has passed.
It was moving. It really was moving for me because, fans out there have their opinions. I don't agree with them. He made it clear to me that there's no interest in selling the team, that his mother, before her passing, had put together a succession plan that was agreed to with the NFL. And the succession plan involves the McCaskey family owning the Bears for the next 100 years. And that's the playbook she put together, as he referenced. She coached him up, and now they're going to go execute the plan. And knowing Virginia McCaskey, that plan also included going out and winning Super Bowls. And, you talked about his excitement with the Ben Johnson hiring. I felt it this morning, Layla, when I talked to him. He talked about going into the weight room and seeing this guy and how fired up he is and intense. And there's just an appreciation. People always talk about how smart he is and respectful he is to the rest of the staff. And, in my dealings with him, and they haven't been many, Cassie's had the opportunity to sit down with him a few more times than I have. But the guy looks you in the eye, and you're buying what he's selling. You look at him, you talk to him, and I feel like, hey, this guy's being honest with me. I may not agree with everything he's saying, but he's shooting me straight.
Lou, what do you think the leash, for lack of a better word, is on Ryan Poles, and as he continues this turnaround, this reset, if not a rebuild, with a new head coach and then obviously new parts in place when you talk about the offensive line, the defensive line, and as we get ready for the draft? Because we're trying to figure out, because, Kevin Warren says we don't talk about contracts and the lengths of contracts, but we're trying to figure out how much room he has here, how much room for margin for error, if you will, he has here as he works with Ben Johnson into next season.
Well, in defense of Ryan, this was his coach, right? He was able to put together a thoughtful, timely coaching search, all right? Whether you like the fact that they had 21 names on the list or not, they really vetted through the process, and I feel they nailed it. Obviously, they got the guy that they wanted all along. You talk to Kevin Warren, Kevin will tell you that 10 minutes into the interview with Ben Johnson, he knew that they had their guy. And in Ryan's case, this is his guy. He's going to hitch his wagon to this guy. And I don't know who to believe, but, I was told that when Ryan took the job as GM, they basically said, the franchise said, here are the three candidates, pick one of the three. Oh, okay. And it was, his first chance, Marshall, to be a GM, so he wasn't going to push back. This time, and kudos to Kevin Warren for giving him the opportunity to go out and find his head coach and go through another draft and go spend money. I mean, for the first time since he's been GM, Marshall, they spent money in free agency. It wasn't about, oh, my God, look at the mess I have to clean up from Ryan Pace. This is about, all right, the mess is cleaned. I've got tons of cap room. Boy, I got lucky with that trade. So I've got draft capital now. Now I can build my team. So how long does that make his, since, his contract situation is a private team matter? My guess is, this is his guy. And if it works with Ben Johnson, then, and they win a few playoff games and maybe an NFC championship and go to a Super Bowl, well, he's going to buy himself a lot of time on his next contract.
I even think if they have a winning season, given the trend you just described, even just a winning season, he earns an extension just based on that
no
alone.
question.
But I just didn't think he was there yet.
I think he's been, and I know nothing. I think he's already been given an extension, because if I was Ben Johnson and I had my pick of the litter and I was the belle of the ball, I'd want to make sure that the guy I just interviewed with, who I'm buying into what he's telling me and selling me on what the future of the team is, I'd like to make sure he's going to be around a little bit longer than just, oh my gosh, if we go from 5-12 to 7-10, he's going to leave. I think that Ryan's going to be here for the next 3 years. Give him a chance, see what happens with the guys that he made the trades for. Some of these guys are veterans, 32 years old. How long is Tooney going to be around? I know Jonah Jackson got the extra year on the contract, but let me just transition to what I think they're going to do with the number 10 pick. I had someone in Detroit tell me, expect the unexpected from Ben Johnson. If a guy like Genty's there at 10, he's going to grab him after what Gibbs has given him for the last 2 years, being a Pro Bowler. If they can get Tyler Warren and he can run his 2 tight end sets 70% of the time, they may grab him. But if both guys aren't there, left tackle, left tackle, left tackle. What Poles said was, hey, maybe the guy we draft doesn't start right away. So we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like there's going to be some type of competition likely at left tackle, and they look good across the line otherwise, so I could see that. I was going to ask you what your biggest takeaway was concerning the draft, but that's a pretty good insight there. What do you think about the way they talked about that the next 3 picks after number 10 and how those guys could be contributors year one as opposed to guys who sit and wait? Although depth is the name of the game, right, Luke? That's something we've learned over the last 5 years or so with this particular iteration with the Bears. Is depth is a thing they've been lacking.
Oh, totally. They've had no depth. And, on defense especially, and Matt Eberflus used to talk about it, he'd want to rotate his guys up front, and he just didn't have the talent. So to answer your question, Marshall, I asked Ryan Poles. Well, first I asked Ben Johnson on Monday. If you can, because you've got 4 picks up amongst the top 72, if you can find 3 starters, is that great? Johnson's like, that would be terrific. 3 starters are in, I used the term impact players. Yesterday I asked Ryan Poles, if you can find 3 starters or impact players, would you be happy? He said, no, I want 4. He wants 4. So they think they can do a lot with those first 4 picks. Obviously, the depth at the running back position coming out of college is just ridiculous. So even if Genty's not there, it's not a lost cause. I'm not sold on. I asked Andy Reid about the arm length of
Will Campbell.
Will Campbell, thank you very much. And Andy Reid, because he's always referenced about this, and obviously Poles was part of the Kansas City organization. Reid said it wasn't a big deal. I got a different feeling when I talked to Poles about it. Maybe it is more of an important part of drafting at that position than Andy Reid let on. But obviously, they're going to definitely need someone up front. Again, he admitted that Karan Amagaji, it was unfortunate that, his first opportunity to get out there was that Minnesota game, and he wasn't ready and didn't have a chance to practice. So they're still going to give Karan an opportunity, and, Braxton Jones has to come back off of the ankle surgery. So they need more help up front on the offensive line. And let me say this about the defensive line, Marshall and Layla. You look at what this team did, okay, yeah, they increased their sack total last year to 40, middle of the pack in the NFL, but don't tell me that Montez Sweat, okay, is the next great pass rusher. He never has been. He had 12.5 a couple of years ago. You look over the course of his career, this guy's a 6-7 sack a year guy. So they need another warlord up front to help him. And the main, Javon Dexter off to a great start last year, 4 sacks first 5 games, 1 after those first 5 games. So he needs to play strong. They made some moves. They got Jarrett, got Adebango. We'll see.